Hi everybody, my app is a new look at the old classic PirateShips, where players guess Cartesian coordinates instead of alphanumeric grid coordinates, and boats are located on the grid lines rather than in the gaps. There's also a substantial amount of confirmation of guesses by both the players and the server to enhance the genuine learning of Cartesian coordinates rather than letting the computer accommodate for players' mistakes, such as mixing up the order of the coordinates or just silly mistakes along the way. Alright, so an intro to the pieces that are functional. We've got the options section, which is in the heading, and if you click on each of the checkboxes, it toggles the chat and assist sections or pieces and removes their functionality when they're not visible. The chat is also fully operational on the client side with an easy access point in the lower button for when the server's up and running. We can either type in and press go for our own conversation. And I decided to not include a timestamp because at the end of the day this is for kids and they don't really need to know what time the messages were sent. Displaying coordinate guesses from both the player and the opponent is up and running, with the opponent responses also including colour coding for if they are a hit or a miss, or if it's still pending. And then validating guesses by player 1 is fully functional, with prompts to also fix errors on if the coordinates haven't been entered correctly, if they are outside the range or the domain of the grid, and then actually sending them off to the server. So at the moment they're all still sitting pending because that functionality is going to rely on the conversation actually happening through the server with the other player, which doesn't exist yet. Quick tour of my code. We have the index file where we've got the heading section and then the two map sections and a chat section in the middle. The data for this particular current working data is the two player names, the player type on whether or not they're a friendly or an opponent, whether or not we want confirm assist and chat assist on, and then the sections that track the current guess coming in from the server and then the collection of guesses that have come, as well as there's a nice entry point for player 2 name. I still need to add in the messages for the chat section coming from the opponent, as well as design the turn tracker, but I'll talk about the turn tracker in my to-do list. Alright, we then move into the chat section, which is pretty explanatory with its button with the entry input section and then the box that it gets rendered into, and then the script for that is held externally. We've then got the map view, which has the two different views on whether or not it is a friendly or an opponent, and the different functionalities that are required for handling the guesses involved there. And then the scripting is held internally for the map view. And we start with our universal components that house the colouring for each of the dots, which is going to be the same for hit, miss or pending. And then we have the client side handling, so that's validating the entries and then displaying them. And then the opponent displaying the opponent's entries. There's also a section in there that's going to be nice and easy to check whether or not the person is being truthful or correct on saying whether or not the opponent has made a hit or a miss. And so then that will get overrun. The final section is the game demo, and I'm, as of today, up to the point of designing that and getting it to actually render to the script. But yeah, that's where I'm up to today. Alright, in order to work out how I'm going to finish off the project, it's important to work out where I'm up to. So I got stuff to work, or got stuff to show up on the screen, and then started to work out some of the functionality and the language. So I've got a bit of more of a handle on that. So my next step, as mentioned before, is to get that demo game rendering in the background. And that's going to include designing the turn tracking, which I don't think is going to be a boolean on whose shot it is. It'll be a case of sending off a confirmed point, the other player actually saying if it's a hit or a miss, and then that coming back to player 1 and rendering on their screen, and then it flips over to being player 2's turn, and they run through that cycle. So I don't think the boolean side of whose shot it is going to work out very well, so that's going to take a fair amount of effort. After that, I'm going to be working on the server side, and that's going to open up a lot of opportunities to sort of round off a couple of the components that are sitting there a little bit open-ended. So the messages that I want to be sending in the server include getting for the name and a guess and any chat messages, and then posting my name, my guesses and my messages, as well as get hit and miss and posting hit and miss. Problems that I see coming up in the future, or things that I've encountered, well, I've worked through a lot of the problems, and I'm pretty happy with how I've done that, and a little bit annoyed in the timeline, but all good things. And then redesigning, and I'm really worried about having to keep redesigning just in case I haven't got some good design going at the moment. At this point, I've put a couple of things that I originally had separated have been put into the map sections, and so I'm just concerned on whether or not that's bad coding practice, and so a bit of feedback on that from my peers would be really good. And then moving forward, the things that I'm worried about are actually integrating that server-based information. So have I completely missed the idea of server-side information? Does it not work the way that I seem to be thinking it does? How deep into the component layers can I actually call? So can I call from that map section, or does the call have to come from the index and then the index sends it through to that mapping section? And if I call it straight from the mapping section, does that count as bad coding practice? Alright, thanks for your feedback and good luck with the rest of the project.